I don't feel like really going through the debate on what's canon and what is canon, so I just say I'm just going to separate them into separate videos, and y'all can debate it. I'm not debating it, so I'm just going to separate it. Enjoy. Subzero is one of the most legendary icy type beings, so I said why not? In his lore, just like the video game lore, I mean, he's an icy ninja type being that has hand-to-hand combat skills, and you guys know of the lore of how there's been multiple Sub-Zeros and stuff, right? Just like the game lore. I mean, Sub-Zero is a beast in his base form, but I'm going to go over when he actually got amped up. One can say with blood magic, thanks to the Kami Dogu. You see these little daggers? These are the things that I'm going to show in this video of amping up Sub-Zero, because technically all you need to do is get cut by it and you get powered up. Cursing him, being amped up with blood magic. That's all you got to do is get cut by it, and it will be a curse. It's that freaking simple. It amplifies them, and they become like a puppet, one could say. It's pretty much stated here that he does get a power up because of the Kami Dogu, blood magic amp, you know. I'm going to get back to this blood magic stuff later on in the video, though. Just like in the game, he still does superhuman stuff like ripping cyborgs and stuff in half and stuff. Yeah, I know this is a comic, but it seems like they can replicate and do the fatalities you see them do in gameplay. Like you see him ripping this guy's torso, for example, with strength. And just like video game Sub-Zero, he should be able to do similar when it comes to raw strength. YouTubers that are a lot smarter than me and you can put together when it comes to math has calculated that the amount of power needed to rip somebody's spine out with their head still connected to it, stuff that Sub-Zero and Scorpion could do in the lore, this should apply to the comics too. In order to accomplish this feat, that means Sub-Zero and other beings that can do similar feats to this in the Mortal Kombat lore can produce 100 tons of force when it comes to ripping heads off with the spine connected to it. And the comic him seems to be no different. When you see them do stuff like this, that's similar to the video game lore. If he really can produce 100 tons of force based on them calculations, imagine what his kicks or punches would feel like. That would be like saying he could kick a tank over or up in the air or something, flipping it over completely as he wishes with a strike. I want you guys to imagine how hard his ice-enhanced limbs would be if he can technically do this based on them calculations already. How much more do you think an ice fist or an ice construct around his arm, how much do you think that would increase his punching power? That would be like saying he can punch with over 100 tons of force if he can do this type of stuff without even adding his ice onto it, ripping heads out with their spine connected to it type stuff. If we were to take them calculations serious of them actually being able to do that and that actually taking 100 tons of force, it's true that certain buildings vary in size. What do you think is the max thing he could punch down or destroy based on all this stuff? When it comes to his ice or punching power in general, physical strength added on top of his ice, all that stuff put together, you get the idea. You know what I mean? What do you think? Do you think he can do more? Do you think his full potential's never been explored? I want to hear it all below. When these multiple cyborgs are on him, he can knock multiple of these off of him at the same time while using his ice ability. He's always been versatile, making different ice weapons, even in the comics, making swords, making smaller daggers, you know, doing the straight up classic ice blast to counter flamer and stuff. Can create ice shields to shield from massive explosions like this. Seems to be able to make ice from all different directions, like these ice spikes from behind him to stab you, and plot to knock enemies off of him while freezing beings or even slicing them with his icy blades too. This is like an occasion of his strength and skill, flipping beings over like this, for example, like doing this to Frost. It's true that he has superhuman attributes like kicking through doors. You can get an idea of his physicals by how he lands and does all this BS to the ground. Just the collateral of him fighting. Look at these columns they break just from hitting each other through them. You can't tell me he's normal human level punching all these stone slabs like this without even necessarily spamming his ice. And y'all trying to talk about what he can do when he adds his punching power or stuff with ice? Like this, yeah, ice blade through these heads. I mean, we're talking about gotta be slashing arms with his blade. Too many occasions of him literally making a blade to stab you through the head. Bro, the way ice works, he can kind of lower something's durability, freezing it first and then just punching it to make it easier to shatter. So one could say this can give you an idea of his blast power. I mean, this is something we always see him do when it comes to blasting stuff first, making the wall or door or structure brittle to bust through it and continue going. Yeah, so his ice is, one could say, haxy, touching it and freezing the door first, then punching it to give himself an opening, obviously. So it's obvious he can blast through thick walls. His ice blast power, he used to freeze others to protect them from an explosion. Notice how he can freeze 3 different beings, making them brittle at once to kick their head off, making them easy to murk. Make you into a huge icicle where you can't move. One can say he can insta-freeze you. He can freeze you first, then use you as a shield for protection. You remember how early in the video when I was talking about being amped up with blood magic? Well, Sub-Zero's powers get amplified when he's under this blood magic stuff, just by being cut by one of the Kami Dogu, invoking the curse. Like, it's implied with the text bubbles. It's implied that when they talk in red, they're powered up with this amp. You see Sub-Zero being powered up like this. They implied as well. Stated here, gets powered up more than ever. We can see Sub-Zero kicking a being so hard to the point where it causes this much impact. One can even go as far as saying being able to level entire buildings with his punching power and ice put together. implying he can cause building destruction, or one could say he can cause building destruction by making the building frail with ice first, then shattering it. One could say with his blast power. Like, this guy literally like using his fist with ice, of course, froze all this technological optic implant type stuff, then ripped it out. They had like a little fire and ice tug of war. You know how Scorpion has fire and he has ice? They had like a little ice tug of war, or blast power tug of war, one could say. One could say beam struggle while he was amped up. It seemed like he got the advantage over Scorpion because you see the flame right here at first. So it was a majority flame, but then it kind of got nullified. And that part that was flame is not flame anymore, kind of overpowering his flame temporarily here. I mean, I already showed you him freezing a whole bunch of cyborgs in this video, but he can just do a lot more than what he usually could do. Whatever he used to do, he can do better now. Apparently, the whole city is frozen. He has the raw power to freeze an entire building. It did so to the side of a tall one here, for example. You can get an idea of his blast power here, blasting a lot of area in omnidirectional attack type of fashion. So when it comes to his blast power, he can definitely blast down temples and things like that, especially while amped up with blood magic. One could argue he might be able to do some of this while he's not amped still too, though, but they imply Kamidogu really amped him up here, especially in these comics. Being pretty much able to make ice balls or ice the size or larger than buildings on the whim with this Kamidogu seems to be impressive. But amped up stuff aside, his normal ice is still impressive because his ice can counter 3,000 degree flames, for example. It's kind of been implied he can do this in the games too, give himself like an ice armor or coat himself in ice spikes to cut up beings while he's also protecting himself with ice armor, one could say. Well, everybody, it's not much to say. Comics don't have that much lore, but yeah, video game, when he kind of can do the same stuff the video game one can do anyway, right? Just don't have as many flashy showings when he's unamped, you know what I mean? But before I get going, everybody, you gotta respect this version of Subzero, which is still technically the canon Subzero, but whatever. I'm trying not to confuse people, so I just separated them into different videos. Thanks for the donations, everybody. Respect Subzero. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.